Hey, welcome back to Switch to Linux. So on this tip for the day, what we're going to do is revitalize an old computer running Windows Vista. Some say it was the most horrible Microsoft operating system. I disagree. Millennium was far worse. Windows 10 might take the cake. So what we're actually going to do is this computer is being built for somebody that's into the creative arts. So we are going to put Ubuntu Studio on here, which is an Ubuntu version, which specifically is designed for being creative. It has all of the suites involved for doing animations, music, video editing, and all that kind of stuff. So to do this, what we need to do is we need to make a CD key, and with that CD key, we are going to install we're just going to wipe out the entire Windows operating system on this system because it's just an old computer we don't need anymore. So what you need, your tools, I have a 4 gigabyte USB drive. You need a computer capable of writing a CD key, so I'm going to be using my Linux Mint 17 over here. And you need to download Ubuntu Studio, which I will have the link for that in the video comments here. So what we're going to do is just put your CD key in here, and there is an entire video on how to make these CD keys. So we'll just keep this one real brief. I'm just going to drop that in there, and then I'm going to come up here and I just type in writer. That gives me my USB image writer. Under my source here, I want to go under my location where I have all my distros. And somewhere in here I have Ubuntu Studio. So here's Ubuntu Studio 16.04. We're going to select that. And then in the 2, I'm going to grab the device, which is there. And we're going to hit write. I need to do my password. Okay, so our target system, which is going to have Ubuntu Studio, is an old computer running Windows Vista. So running Windows Vista, it should be able to take Ubuntu just fine. So what I wanted to do is, first I wanted to check what the processor and the system information was. So if you have your My Computer icon up here on the desktop, you can right-click and click Properties. If you don't have it there, you can pull it up from your Start menu here, and your computer's there. And then over here, it's telling us that our processor is a 2 gigahertz. It's a dual core, so that's all fine. We do have 6 gigs of RAM installed. It's actually only showing me 3.5 here. I'm wondering if that's limited by the operating system. We are running a 32-bit operating system, but I took the processor, which is the AMD Radeon 64X2 TL60. I did a little search on that, and I found that this is a 64-bit processor, so I shouldn't have any problem running Ubuntu Studio on here. So the next step, this guy here is just going to get wiped out. We're just going to go ahead and shut it down. And then our disk over here is done writing, so it tells me the image was written successfully. So now that means that my distro is now right here, so I can boot my computer off of this. So as soon as this guy shuts itself down, we will come back on and we will do the next step of the installation. Okay, so we have our USB drive ready to go. Our computer's shut down, and you're actually seeing me in the reflective screen of the computer here. So what we're going to do is the next step, we're just going to go ahead and get this guy set up. Now, if you happen to be using a newer computer, Windows 8, Windows 10, which has Secure Boot on, you need to get Secure Boot turned off. You can do that when the computer is loading up by pushing the F12 key. You might have to hold the function in the F12 key, depending on how your BIOS is set up. That should get you into a boot menu. But if your Secure Boot is driving you even out of that, then what you need to actually do is you need to start up the Windows computer, go into the settings, and I want to say it's under the security, or it's under the backup. I forget where it is in the anniversary edition now, but that'll actually allow you to boot into bypass the Secure Boot the next time. You still have to push your either Escape, F2, F10 key. I generally just push the F12 because that's pretty universal a boot menu, and the boot menu usually gives you the option there to load up the BIOS as well. And then you just need to disable the secure boot. Alright, so what we're going to do is I'm going to plug this into any available USB port. And then as the computer turns on, I'm going to hit the power button, and then I'm going to kind of spam the F12 key, and that should boot up our menu there. Okay, so it says preparing one-time boot menu. Now it's asking us where do we want to boot from. The internal hard drive, let me make sure you can read that there. So the internal hard drive, the USB storage, CD, or an onboard NIC. We can also here go into your BIOS setups. This is where you might want to get into. Let me just show you a couple things in there. So the BIOS setup will just get us some information. What you will see in newer systems, this is an older BIOS, but you'll see in some newer BIOS systems, you'll see options for secure boot, whatever else. You want to turn that off. I'm going to go ahead and hit the exit and hit the exit button over there. Okay, we're going to just go ahead and shut the computer down. Oh, that was actually it loaded into the Ubuntu Studio. I didn't even see it. That's what it did there. I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on. It won't hurt anything if you do that. Okay, so there's our boot menu. We're going to go to the USB storage. Alright, so here's where we're at. This is the Ubuntu Studio startup menu. We're pre-selected on English. We're going to go ahead and do that. We can try Ubuntu Studio without installing. We can install it, test disk, check disk, test memory, or boot from first hard disk. We're going to install Ubuntu. We do not need the Windows Vista operating system on this computer anymore. So we're going to go through a few lines of code here. In full, just full disclosure, I've not actually set up Ubuntu Studio on a computer before. I'm just pretty confident in my ability to do this without messing it up too badly. You can see it's Ubuntu Studio, Linux for creative humans. That's what that says. Very nice. I have previewed Ubuntu Studio a couple times. It does come with a lot of your good popular software pre-installed. So I'm going to. Okay, it's still working here. I'm gonna kind of randomly every now and again cut some parts out. So if I go quiet, that's why. Okay, so here's our install menu. We want to hit the continue on the English. And then here we want to install the third-party software. This will allow us to actually use more multimedia functions like MP3s, Flash, things like that. Now there is an option here for download updates while installing. This is grayed out because I am not connected to an internet connection right now. I kind of wanted to, but my computer is, this computer is slightly farther away from my spare wire than than I would like it to be, so I just can't reach it. Otherwise, I'd actually select the option to download updates while installing. Usually means that the installation takes slightly longer, but you don't have to do a big update after you're done installing it. Okay, so on this screen here, Ubuntu Studio is designed with all of the different audio and video items, but suppose you don't do anything in audio, you just want to run the video, you can deselect certain packages. So here you can see there's Audacity on there, just a lot of different packages. I don't even know what all these guys are doing here. This case here, we're just going to leave everything exactly as it is. We want to be able to do audio, do video, do graphics, publishing. So here, the computer is telling me that we have a couple different installations on here, and we don't really need any of these. So what we're going to do is wipe out everything that's on the disk. We're just going to erase the disk and install Ubuntu Studio. Now the other options would be to install it alongside your other operating systems. We're not going to do any of that, so we're going to go ahead and hit the install now. Now if you did want to dual boot or something, then you would do that. It is riskier. So here it's giving us a warning. We're about to destroy everything on the disk. That is quite okay with me. I'm going to hit the continue. It detects my time zone, presumably from my system clock, because I'm not on the internet. So we're going to keep that right where it is. It asks us for the keyboard layout. Usually the defaults are just fine. It detects US and US English. Again, probably grabbing that from the BIOS setup. It will give us a warning that's a short password. We're going to change the password on the computer later. So now we're walking through the setup. I'm going to walk through the little welcome screen stuff here for you, and then we'll close out the camera and come back when we're done. So here it's, thanks for choosing Ubuntu Studio. The slideshow is going to tell you a little bit about the system. So here is recording an album, podcast editing, scoring film. It includes all the things you need. So I don't even know what all these programs are. I do some editing and whatnot, but not this much. I use, for audio editing, I've occasionally had to do, I use Audacity. For video editing, I generally use OpenShot, although I have used Lightworks. So here it comes with Kden Live. I've never gotten this to work on the particular Linux distros I tried it on, but OpenShot works great, so I use that. Blender is actually what I used for my intro clip. Okay, so graphical design. So these pictures back here, this picture over here is Blender. This one here, this looks like it is Inkscape. This one looks like it's probably GIMP or maybe that Paint Studio. So I've not used the Paint Studio. I have used Inkscape, GIMP, and Blender. Very useful tools. So here's some photographer tools. So Raw Therapy, an image processor. So raw image files, if you have a really good professional camera, you can set it to do the raw image files. So you can get the raw image files in your computer and process them here. We have the GIMP image editor and the Darktable photo editor as well, which I've never used. Okay, so there's other applications you can install. Of course, this Ubuntu Studio uses the Ubuntu software repository. So I'm actually going to install Steam on this as well, because I know the person that this computer is built for plays a few games on Steam. So we'll get that all set up and ready to go. And over here, it's just a little thank you screen. There's some places where you can go to get a little bit of help. So we're going to go ahead and wait for this guy to finish copying files, and I'm going to come right back on as soon as we are ready to go. Okay, so I did plug this into the computer while we were waiting for it to install. I moved the computer up a little bit and plugged in the Ethernet jack, so we do have internet. We got a message up there about that. Now the installation is complete. It tells us we have to restart the system, so I'm going to hit the Restart Now button. And as soon as I see the screen go out, or if it gives me an indication, I'm going to pull the USB key out. Alright. I'm going to pull that out. And then now we should reboot into Ubuntu Studio. And then the next thing we're going to do here is, now that I've plugged into the internet, I'm going to run a couple of updates. Okay, so we shut the system down. I have the CD key out. Now we are booting it up. It should boot right into Ubuntu Studio. Here is our Ubuntu Studio. Okay, so here, since we did not collect information on the startup here, it is telling us that we have some incomplete language. We're going to go ahead and do this. this is because we booted it off of a live key, installed it off of the live key without an internet connection. So usually it goes out and it grabs any language packs available and anything else that it needs. Okay, so we're going to do a network update. So first time you boot into any Linux computer after an install, there's going to be some updates you want to run. Usually you'll get some screens with some pop-ups automatically. Once you run these, nothing else is going to pop up in future boot-ups of the computer unless there's an option there to shut it off. So right now it's downloading the cache information from Ubuntu. Okay, so now it wants us to install. And then we have to authenticate. Okay, so we've booted back into the system. I just had a couple little pokes around before turning the camera on, but I didn't actually do anything. What I did here is I just wanted to go and make sure we didn't have anything to update. So I came up to our menu. This is running XFCE. The menu, of course, is at the top, as you can see here. And I came down under your system and under your software updater, and then that's going to automatically check. It tells me that there's 435.7 megabytes of updates. We're going to go ahead and install now. And then this is installing the updates. It should prompt us for a password here. There it is. And I'll be back when we're done updating. We have restarted the system after the updates were completed. So what I'm going to do here is walk through just some of the setup changes and the settings you might want to look at. These would be items that are a matter of personal preference. So by default, the XFCE menu and whatnot is at the top of this screen on this particular version. And I checked with the person today, and they would actually like this set up kind of more like Windows. And so what we're going to do is just make the adjustments to do that. So we need to get into the settings, which for some reason does not appear to be under the system. And I don't remember seeing it under accessories either. We're just going to come down here. I believe it's called settings. So I don't see it, so I'm just going to type in settings in the top. You can see here the settings editor is a little bit more complicated. The second one here is the settings manager, and that's the one that we want to use. So this gives you your more traditional setup there. Let me zoom in on this real quick. There you go. So here you can see the About Me is where you can just make some adjustments to your system here. Your appearance will adjust your coloration. Probably the colorations are probably good for where we're at. Figures, as soon as I start videos, I start getting Skyped left and right, and then my Skype will just not stop beeping. Alright, turn that off. So, here's some dark themes in here if you like the darks. This person said he likes the light themes, so I'm just going to go ahead and find a nice pretty light theme. And I kind of like the older looking, not quite as flat appearances, so this one's actually pretty nice. I think the bar up there is a little too gray there, like too light. That one's pretty good. I'm going to keep this one here. I'm going to do that one. I like this coloration. So your icon sets are under your icons, and you can pick from the different icon types. And I'm actually going to just find some icons that look nice, look sleek, and usable and presentable. I'm not going to use the default ones just because the default icons, they kind of make me want to look for the bar at the top. It's kind of more just a matter of preference. But what I'm looking at here is just how the different icons change. Let me actually zoom in on that part of the screen. So what I'm doing here is I'm changing the general icons, which you can see changing right up here. So as I change these guys around, you'll kind of see how these icons change. This one's pretty nice here. And I'm just going to flip through all these until I find one I really like. So they give you a lot. You can actually download extra icon packs if you don't find anything you like. I'm just going to stick with something I find on here. I'm just not sure which one that's going to be yet. I think I'm going to go up to the Eduardo ones. I'm going to use those. They look pretty nice. Alright, so we're going to come back down here, zoom this guy back out just a little bit. You can change your system fonts. I think the fonts are pretty good how they are, but you can just make some adjustments to those. And this is just some settings on the toolbars. Now at the bottom of your settings panel here is an option to go back to all settings, so we'll hit that guy there. Now desktop is where you can change your desktop image, so that's a pretty neat looking desktop image there. And I saw some pretty cool ones. I'm going to give him one here that's lighter because he likes the lighter color schemes, but still has the branding of the Ubuntu Studio. And I like this one here. This is just a pretty cool desktop. Nice, light, bright, and pretty. So we're going to stick with that one there. Alright. Okay, so this is what the, let's see, where the launcher icons are. Gonna see if what else I can find on these. Actually, let me go back to menus real quick. Okay. Now you can change how your notifications look. You can you should be able to give yourself, maybe I can't give myself a test notification. Some versions of Linux you can give yourself a test notification. It's telling us it's going to follow on the top right. It should match my theme because it is tied into my theme settings. So your panel settings, this up here is called the panel. You can change like the location with the appearance system. You can change the opacities and whatever else. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with the panel. What I'm actually going to do, because I want the panel kind of on the bottom, so a lot of these other items are pretty easy to figure out. This is overriding the colors with custom colors, which we can do. But at the very bottom down here, under XFCE panel switch, this guy here will give you some presets. There's some presets built into this where you can apply different panel types, and that'll move your panels around a little bit. So let me zoom out on the whole screen there. You can see that now we have a panel on the bottom which has some information, but we still have our main panel system at the top. So I'm going to pick one like this one here, where it gives us literally a start menu and it says start. And it behaves just like the other settings here. You can see we have our Bluetooth, we have our internet, clock over here. So everything here is, this one's pretty much exactly what we're looking for. So we're just going to go ahead and keep with that. Your menu editor will adjust the items in your menu there. We're not going to walk through all those. So he wanted a light themed computer that resembles Windows. I think we gave him that. So this is essentially what we're going to have. So in general, I think that I'm going to deem our setup of this complete. So this was how to revitalize an old Windows Vista 32-bit computer with a 64-bit Linux Ubuntu Studio. This is running the XFCE desktop, which is a little bit lighter weight, meaning it can be supported on an older computer a little bit better. In fact, most of the Linux distros that you see to revitalize an old computer are going to run XFCE. It doesn't have a lot of the newer, trendier looking nice effects that some of the newer Linux distros have, but sometimes if you just have an old computer, you need to get back up and working functionally again, XFCE is a great way to go. There's if you don't want to use Ubuntu Studio, if you're looking for one more to use with like more popular internet type things, Linux Mint Peppermint is another XFCE based desktop, sort of based on Linux Mint as well. It's called Peppermint, and it's a very nice looking operating system. And of course, if you want to use more advanced systems on a newer computer, you can do things like the Cinnamon Desktop is my preference. Very nice, sleek, pretty design. Also, there is the GNOME 3, which gives you more like a Mac appearance. So, this was your tip and trick about how to revitalize an old laptop with a lightweight Linux distro. So I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.